Actually focus on planning tool and actually run through a scenario. Um, I'm going to do another type of scenario in the future, but for this scenario, I think it's going to be very applicable to a lot of people. And the key is once we actually go through the scenario and I actually enter the information, which you'll see how I do it, I think it can be easily adapted to most people's circumstances and what they're trying to do. So let's quickly get into it, and then we'll discuss the not only the sheets, the input sheets, but also how you get to the simulations and what the simulations actually tell you. So this for this scenario, it's a couple, husband and wife. The husband's 48, the wife is 45. They want to retire when the husband's 62. And they want to run this analysis until the age of 90 for the husband. And they want to have 500K left over by the age of 90. So that if they actually live beyond the age of 90, or the husband lives beyond the age of 90 as well as the wife, that they have some amount left over that they can actually use. And again, it doesn't have to be 500K, it can be less, or it can be greater. As far as the Social Security benefits, the husband's going to take his at 65, and the amount's going to be 30K at that point. For the wife, she also wants to take it at 65, and her amount's going to be 23K. Um, as far as what they're currently saving into, investment accounts, they're saving 10K per year into taxable investment accounts. These are just regular investment accounts like Schwab, Fidelity, and so forth. And they're doing 17K per year into IRA 401K type accounts. Um, and again, these are usually tax deferred. They can be if they're qualified, but not necessarily actually. And then as far as their current assets that they have 500K in the IRA 401K accounts, and they have 250K in the taxable investment accounts. Their current asset allocation and what they want to maintain up until they get to the retirement age, it's going to be 70% equities and 30% fixed income. Once they get to their first starting year of retirement, they want to convert that to 50% equities and 50% fixed income. And then they want that to gradually change year by year until they get to 25% equities and 75% fixed income by the age of 90 for the husband. They also have a cash inflow coming at when the husband's 63 because they have a rental property, they're going to sell it. And so the after-tax amount that they're going to have is about, again, the expected after-tax amount is going to be about 300K. And then their spending assumptions. They expect to be spending 110K at retirement, the first year of retirement, and then that's going to grow sequentially every year by 2.5%. 2.5% is basically an inflation rate that they're adding. They're going to be adding to the 110K. It can be greater than that, or it can be less than that. So again, all depends on how conservative you want to be. Now, I'm going to pause this. I'm going to jump into the spreadsheet and then we'll see where the numbers go into the spreadsheet. So here's the planning tool. There are really four sheets that we use from it. It's the input sheet, the analysis sheet, the budget sheet, and the sheet that's called sheet two, actually. So let me jump into the input sheet. Now, I've already plugged the numbers into it, but I'll quickly show you where they go. So here's the age of the oldest of the couple, 48. When they want to retire, 62, the husband's age. Um, also the oldest as far as when they want to start receiving Social Security, which is going to be 65 for the husband, and how long we want to run this for. And it's going to be until the husband reaches 90. And here's the 500K that goes into the IRA 401K accounts. Again, that's an aggregate number. We have 250K here going into the taxable investment accounts. They're saving 17K into the IRA and 401K accounts, and they're saving 10K per year up until retirement, up until they retire. 10K into the tax investment accounts. And then over here, based on the fact that we've put the husband as the oldest, and he's going to be taking Social Security at 65. We put that amount in here as where it's going to be, and it's going to be 30K. For the wife, again, we'll make that adjustment on sheet two. And then I have this row 19, I have a Y here, and meaning that I'm going to be using the budget sheet to actually put in my expected expenses for the analysis. If I don't want to do that, I put an N here, and then I'm going to use this amount right here, the 100K. But again, because I do want to use it, you should always, in reality, always use the budget sheet. Put a Y here, and then you go into the budget sheet, and you have a couple of options. You can actually break it down by individual items that you're going to be spending money on. Or you can put an aggregate number down here and just use that. So I've got pretty much zeros for the individual items, and then I have a 110K, which is actually under other. And then I have 2.5% here. Again, you can be higher or lower. And then at retirement, you can see the actual stream here. It's going to be 110K. Then multiply that by 2.5%, it becomes 112K roughly. And it just keeps on growing all the way up until it gets close to, in fact, it does surpass 200K towards the end. Again, going back to the input sheet, let me run through the allocations, asset allocations now. Here's their current asset allocation. It's in row 7 and 8. Column F, you have 70% for the fixed for the equities, and you have 30% for the fixed income. And then at retirement, they want to actually go to 50-50 as a starting point, and then they want to end up at 25% equities and 75% fixed income. And to actually use this block right here of starting and ending, you have to have a 2 up here. And that's how you're actually able to have a starting point and gradually change towards the ending amounts, ending rates. If you just want to use a fixed amount for the asset allocation at retirement, then you'd have to put a 1 up here, and then you'd have to put some values here. I have 35% here for the equity and 65% for the fixed income. And that would become the fixed allocation over the retirement years if you wanted to keep it fixed. If you want more of a gradual change, then again, you put a 2 up here, and you're going to have a starting block and an ending block. Down here, just some of the tax rates, the current tax rates that you're under as far as income and also gains. And over here, this is actually where you actually put the 500K. So as we said from the scenario, they want to have at least 500K by the age of 90 for the husband. And so you put 500K in this cell as well as this cell. It's row 27, and it's column C and column F. And again, it doesn't have to be 500K. If you want it to be a higher amount or low amount, that all depends what you're looking for at the end. But for this scenario, again, we put down 500K. And now let's actually run through the analysis. And there are going to be 2 simulations that I'm going to do. I'm going to do our simulation number 1, which basically tells me, based on the information that we've put in, can I retire by that age, which is 62 in this case. And that's what we're going to run, and then I'll get the results back, and then we'll run through those results. We'll actually talk through those results, what it means. So let me do that. I'm going to pause the video, and then I'll get right back into it after I have the results. So here are the results. Basically, they can't retire by the age of 62 based on the current scenario. They would have to retire by the age of 69. And when they do retire by the age of 69, and then the amount that they will have, the average amount that they will have when the husband reaches 90 will be 2.5 million. And the way this works is actually it's a Monte Carlo simulation, and so it's going to be looking at a whole bunch of potential distributions going forward, for the equity returns. And obviously, it's using the historical distribution, but But to make this really work and make it so that it's actually somewhat conservative as well as aggressive, I'm disturbing that distribution so that it could be better in some cases, and it can also be a lot worse than what we've seen in the past. And based on those runs, because we're doing multiple runs, for the simulation, I want 90% of those runs to end up with a result that's actually above 500K. And so what you see there, that 2.5 million is an average of those runs. And so some of them are going to be greater than 2.5 million, and some of them are going to be less, a lot less, and probably around 500K. But the key is 90% of them are going to be above the 500K. And so by doing that, I can feel very confident that yes, if I retire, if I continue doing what I'm doing, let's say I do retire and I have to change from 62 to 69, I will be able to meet my goals. Um, Even again, and when we actually look at that average, I mean, again, there are going to be some cases that are far better than that. And there are going to be some cases that are far worse than that. And even with those really worst cases where we're actually close to 500,000, they're still in reality um, worse than what we've actually ever seen. And so we should never get to that point. So in reality, we should end up being above the 500K very easily. Should. Again, but that's the reason why we run the simulation, because we want to look at, not only what the average might be, but also some of the extreme cases. Um, so let's change something now. I want to actually uh, look at something. So we know that we can't retire at the age of 62 unless we make some changes. I mean, we make some changes as far as how we save, maybe moving the Social Security up a few years, maybe selling the property sooner and actually having that value be invested and hopefully get some higher returns. So there's different things that we can do to actually bring that retirement age again back into what it could be as far as closer to 62. But I do want to run another simulation, and that's going to be simulation number three. And with this simulation, basically, I'm going to say, well, I know we can't retire at 62, so we know that already. But I want to look at if we were to try to retire at 61, okay, what would we need to do? Okay, based on our current scenario, maybe making some changes in our current, especially from a savings standpoint. So let's run that, and I'll come back and I'll discuss those results. So here are the results of simulation number three. So basically it's telling us that if we want to retire by the age of 61, we have to increase the savings towards the IRA accounts, 401K accounts by to 26K. And then for the taxable accounts, we have to increase those uh, to 89,000. So really high amounts. But that's if we wanted to actually retire by 61, starting off with our basic scenario, what adjustments would we have to make on the savings plan? And that's what it's telling us. And then if we do this, then once the husband reaches the age of 90, we're going to have 2.7 million uh, left over, basically. And again, just like we described that for simulation number one, that's an average. Again, it's looking at some really bad cases and some really great cases on each one of these runs. And 90% of the runs have to be, again, above 500K. And so even for some really, really bad runs, we have to still get them to above 500K. And in total, in average, that's the amount that we expect to have left over. But the good thing is, again, because we're actually even surviving some really bad cases, you can feel comfortable that, yes, we're going to be able to meet our goal of at least having 500K. Um, that's it, really. And let me just show you what it looks like if you actually click on the button to run simulation number three. It's going to come up and say, okay, give me an age of when you want to retire. It's got to be it's got to be equal or less actually than the current age that you have to retire, that you're planning to retire at. And then you plug that in and then it runs. You just hit OK and it's going to run for you. And the results, I just cancel this. And the results will be right there.